and Henry liked to drink.
Oh.
And he would come home inebriated to the guard gate and say, "Let's see your Liberty card, Henry." And he would say, "Ah, you guys know who I am. I'm Henry Fonda." "Henry Fonda, I don't give a damn. I gotta see your Liberty card
Well, that's pretty
before
cool.
I can let you in this base."
So you actually met him?
Hmm?
You actually met him?
I actually met him.
Huh.
He was just like one of the other guys.
Huh.
He was in the military. He was I don't know if he was a lieutenant senior grade or a lieutenant junior grade. He had a gold stripe on his cap. But he would walk up to that gate, and he would go downtown, and I suppose he had special friends or someplace, and they would have a few drinks. And then he would come back on base. And then when he came to the base, we had to check everybody in. Didn't matter who they were.
You're still gonna get checked in. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Ah, you guys know me. I'm Henry Fonda.
Alright, this is February 22nd, 2004, and my name is Sarah Zook. I'm interviewing my grandfather, Earl Benjamin Bahr, about World War II for the Veterans History Project. Alright, Grandpa, what was your life like before you went off to the military?
I was born on a ranch north of Snook in 1922, and I helped my father. I was about 4 or 5 years old. I helped him worked on the ranch, and I worked there most of my life before I went to the military. I did some off work off of the ranch, but most of it was to help my father.
Alright. What did you think the military would be like before you joined?
I didn't have the slightest idea, but the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor, and my older brother was called up into the service, and I was so proud that he went off to fight for his country, and I couldn't wait to get in and go over there and help fight the Japanese.
So that was why you decided to go in the military?
And that's why I decided to go, and I was a selective volunteer because I was past the age limit, so I was in the selective service, but so they had to be called a selective volunteer. So I joined up, and I joined into the Naval Forces in 1943.
I thought you were a Marine.
Well, I went to the Marines after I got into the Navy.
Oh, okay. Was that, what year did you end up going into the Marines, or how did that work?
I joined the service in 1943, and then in 1943, the end of 1943, I was in the Marine Corps through a medical unit, and I was probably 21 years old.
Uh-huh. What were your friends doing when you went off to war?
My friends, most of my friends were home buddies, and I think most of them were farm boys, so they got deferred, and most of them never went to the service. But I still liked them, even though they were not. Didn't seem like it was patriotic to be that way, but then they were needed at home, so I guess that was okay.
Yeah. When you signed up knowing that you were going to war, right, Grandpa?
Yeah, I signed up. I knew I was going to war because my brother was in there, and I thought I should go over and do my part for my country.
Did they do a boot camp? What was your boot camp like?
I went to naval boot camp in Farragut, Idaho, and when I got out of boot camp, I went to medical school, and I learned a lot about medicine. And then after that, I was sent down to the Marines, and I was attached to a Marine unit, and I wore the same clothes the Marines did. I wore the same uniform the Marines did, and I did everything that the Marines did.
What unit were you in? Do you remember?
I was in the 21st Regiment, the 3rd Battalion, the L Company, the 21st Marines.
Wow. So what did you do what kind of training did they have you do for the medical?
First, I had to study medicine. I knew as much about medicine as probably as a local doctor would do, and it was not like a surgeon would do, but it was the first operation, medical, that you could deliver.
Huh. So they trained you how to treat wounds, and did they have doctors to do the surgery part, or did they train you for surgery too, or?
Yeah, we were the first. We were first to treat wounds, and then after that, it was turned over to medical surgeons.
Wow. Did you choose to go into the medicine, or did they just kind of place you, or?
We were, after we left the naval training school, we were put in the medical corps, and we were the first to do any medical treatment that this victim of war had.
Huh. Well, that's pretty neat. Where was your different training at? Where did you do your naval training, and where did you do your medical training?
I did my medical training in Hospital Corps School in Farragut, Idaho, and I went to Bremerton Naval Hospital, and I did medical training there, and then I went to Camp Elliott down near San Diego, and I did advanced medical training there, and then we were ready for the Marine Corps, and we were shipped overseas.
How long did they have you do training before they sent you over?
The training was quick and immediate because they needed guys like us, and so it was probably 6 weeks in the medical training, and then they graduated us, and we were ready to go.
Wow. Did they tell you where they were going to send you, or did they just?
Everything was the top secret at that time in that war. We had no idea where we were going, but we were shipped out, and we didn't know exactly where we would wind up, but we knew where we were going to where they needed us.
Yeah. What did you think the war would be like before you went?
I had no idea. We talked to guys. We talked to some guys that had come back from the war, and they told us what it was like, and that's the only knowledge we had about what it was like to be in conflict.
Yeah. Where did you first get sent?
our first war experience was retaking of the island of Guam, which was once a United States possession before the war and the Japanese had overrun it, and we had to take it back from the Japanese. So we were the first assault forces to land on the beach on the island of Guam.
Wow. How long were you there, or what was it like?
We were on the island of Guam, and they landed. It was under heavy fire. There was a lot of mortar shells. I had a friend that was laying in a foxhole next to me, and a mortar shell blew his head off, and it was a pretty rough war, and we finally subdued the Japs in about 30 days.
Wow. When you went there, you flew in on a plane, and how did that go? They just drop you on a beach, or what was it like when you got there?
We were on a beach. Immediately, they set up a tent hospital on the beach for the lesser wounded, and the more seriously wounded were shipped offshore, and they had a hospital ship, and hospital ships are white, and they were painted with a red cross on the side of them, and they were supposed to be not bombed by the enemy forces.
Mm-hmm.
And this friend of mine had his helmet blew off his head, and he had severe brain damage, was transported out to the hospital ship, and I never heard nothing for 6 days. And when he did hear, they say he had passed away, and he was buried at sea on the 26th day of July.
Wow. Do you remember his name?
His name was Johnny Grigsby. He was from Miami, Oklahoma, and I had good contact with his parents, and they often called me, and we were so much under censorship. I told them everything I could tell them, but I never got to really tell them the whole story till after the whole war was all over, and then I wrote them a letter and telling them all about the details. And they were really a nice family, and I sent my condolences for him because he was my good friend.
Wow. Where else did you fight?
And then after Guam, we were in training. We had secured the island of Guam, and we used it as our training base. And so we were training for the island of Iwo Jima, which was 600 miles off Tokyo. And at that time, a lot of the B-29s were flying over Tokyo and dropping bombs, and then returning back to the air base on Guam, Saipan, and Tinian. Some of them were crippled, and they had to land in the Pacific Ocean, which is a wide Pacific between there and their landing base. And a lot of the guys they might be in their last life rafts, but they were hard to find and seldom picked up, and they died out in their last life raft. So it was very important that we take this island. It was 600 miles from Tokyo, so that's where they sent us, and it was one of the worst conflicts in the history of warfare. We lost on the island of Iwo Jima. We lost 6,000 Marines, but 22,000 Japs died there. And we got the island, and we made a landing strip for crippled B-29s coming back from bombing Tokyo and the island of Japan.
How long were you on Iwo Jima?
We were on Iwo Jima for probably a month and a half until we had the island secured, and then we turned it back. We left Iwo, and then Air Force built a strip, and Army took the island over after we left.
So you saw all the branches of the military.
Yeah, we saw all the branches. We worked in all the branches of service: the Navy, the Army, and the Marine Corps. And being was in the Marine Corps, we wore the same uniform the Marines did. You couldn't tell us from a Marine. And we carried a rifle, we carried live ammunition, and if we had to fight the Japanese, we were well equipped. And a lot of times we did that. We had to fight the Japanese in their banzai attacks. And
you'd see them face to face, and
yep, and a lot of times it was face-to-face and hand-to-hand combat. We encountered hand-to-hand combat several occasions.
was that as you were taking it, or would they come back? Or?
Yeah, that was when we were taking the island. And the island of Iwo Jima was so undermined, you would think you had a front line. And they had caves all through the island. They would come up behind you and they would start attacking you from the rear. And you thought that you had a front, but you didn't. So you had to fight them from both sides.
Wow. What special tactics did they have you use? Or was there, I mean...
Our only special tactics we had was discovering their locations of their caves and where they had undermined the island, and we would use pole charges and lots of demolition charges to blow them out of their caves.
Wow. Did they use mines? Did you run into those at all? Or?
Yeah, and there were a lot of mines. They had mines all over the island, and tanks would not move forward until we had cleared a pathway for them. We had to open minefields for them.
How'd you clear the minefields?
By probing.
Oh.
Probing with your bayonet until you find a mine, and then you would carefully dig it out, and you would place a detonator on it and blow it up. And then after we got pathways cleared, then the tanks could move in.
What kind of tanks were they? What was the...
They were Sherman tanks of 38 caliber cannons mounted on them, and machine guns.
Wow.
And at one time we bypassed the tank. The tank crew had been shelled so hard that they had to leave the tank, and it was in the Japanese territory. And we were moving up, and we were supposed to take some ground, and all of a sudden we see the turret on our own tank wheeling around, and the Japanese are taking control of the tank.
Oh no.
So we had to move up and blow our own tank up.
Oh jeez.
Ask them how they got onto the beaches, because they went in on special boats.
How did you get onto the beaches?
We were brought on transports to Iwo Jima, and they
Ship?
lowered us over the side on rope nets into what we called Higgins boats, and we were lowered into these Higgins boats, and we got one boat full. They would take off and circle out in the water, and then they would fill another boat full of Marines, and then that would circle, and they kept circling out there until we were all off of the ship, and then they would all the boats were head for shore, and when they rammed up on the beachhead, they dropped the front door on these Higgins boats, and we would pour out and take the land that we were supposed to.
Wow. How many Marines were on each one of those?
There would be about 45 Marines in each one of these Higgins boats.
Wow. So you just stormed the beaches.
And we would storm ashore. Everybody was hoping there wasn't no machine guns aimed right at us when we came off that boat. They dropped the oar and we had to run into enemy fire.
Was it usually at night or?
No, most time it was daytime landings.
Wow. What kind of guns did they have for you?
Well, they had 45, there were 31, the Japanese had 31 caliber machine guns, and that's what they had sitting there in pillboxes aimed at the boats as they landed.
Oh jeez. What did you guys have? What did you carry?
We carried 30 caliber rifles, and we carried enough ammunition so we would have approximately 40 rounds of ammunition to combat the Japanese when they landed, plus hand grenades and satchel charges.
Wow. Were you on the first group that landed when you went to take Iwo Jima? You were on that first.
Yeah, we were on the first wave
Wow.
in Iwo Jima. Our first objective was to take Airfield number 1. The Japanese had 3 airfields there, and we took Airfield number 1.
Were the guys pretty nervous to land that first time?
Everybody was nervous.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't know whose number was up, but you knew somebody was going to get killed.
Yeah. How many waves did they send in behind you?
Well, they kept sending men in, you know, to help support us. And they also sent artillery and machine guns platoons in, and they would set up with us the minute we got stabilized.
What was it like when you finally took it? How did they tell you that you had it? Or?
It was a horrible battle. Iwo Jima, it was a horrible battle. But one day when things quieted down, my platoon sergeant came up to me and he says, "Well, it's all over." And I couldn't believe it because we had just lost men that morning, you know. But he says, "It's all over. And this is the worst war that the Marines have ever fought."
Wow. You had lost men from your own battalion, or?
I was in a platoon of 45 men, and I'd lost. They weren't all dead, but a lot of them were wounded and sent back to hospitals. And there was 45 men in my platoon. Me and a demolition sergeant and my platoon sergeant were the only 3 guys left without a scratch.
Wow. When was it that you got the bullet bounced off your, where you got your, when you almost got shot, where it almost hit you? Was that on Guam or was that on Iwo Jima?
I got wounded on the island of Guam when we took the island of Guam, but on Iwo, I never got a scratch.
Oh, wow.
But I made it through that island without a scratch, and I'm thankful to God for that.
Wow. What was it when you got wounded on Guam? How did that happen?
I got hit by a mortar shell alongside my buddy, Red Grigsby, and he got a severe wound, head wound, and he died 6 days later. And all I got was a piece of my helmet blown off, and I survived that one, and I got some shrapnel wounds in my face, and that was about it.
Wow. So how, once you got Iwo Jima, then where did they send you? Or how long did you stay there once?
After Iwo Jima, we secured the island, we turned it over to the Army, and they sent us back to Guam. And we had a 3rd Marine Division had a camp there in Guam. And so we were in training because there was still one island left to take, and that was the island of Japan itself.
Mm-hmm.
And MacArthur, General MacArthur, was in charge of our operation. So he was training, we were training, the Marines were training, and there were 6 divisions of Marines, and they were committed to taking the island of Japan, and it was called Operation Showdown, and we were getting all ready for that, and then they developed the atomic bomb, and Harry Truman designated 1 drop, and it was dropped on Nagasaki, and it blew half of the town away in Nagasaki. So then we didn't hear no more from the Japs.
Where
So
were
they-
you when they dropped the bomb? Where were you when they dropped the bomb? How did you hear about
I was
it?
back on Guam, and the 21st Marine Division encampment there. And then, so they dropped the 2nd bomb on Hiroshima. And they gave the Japs an ultimatum. They could surrender, and they had to fly white planes into Manila and land. They would not be shot down. And then they had other islands they could land on, and then we would accept their unconditional surrender. So on VJ Day, the 7th Fleet sailed into Tokyo Harbor, and General MacArthur accepted their surrender, unconditional surrender.
Wow.
And after that, we stayed over there for a long time because all the war, during the war, everything had gone over there. And there was not much coming back to the United States. So we had to wait till about November before a ship came by, and they asked us if we would like to ride on back to the United States on a cruiser. and the cruiser is next to a battleship. And they says, we'll take it. We were happy. So we went back to the United States on this cruiser, and it took us 15 days from the time we left the island of Guam till we embarked in San Francisco.
Wow. Then how did they get you back from, where'd you go after San Francisco?
Well, they had to do some paperwork on us, which took about 3 days. And then after that, 3 days was up, then they gave us a ticket, and we got on a train. And there were so many guys coming home. You couldn't believe those trains. They were crowded with GIs from all over the world that were coming home. And we got on this train, and I rode from San Francisco to Ogden, Utah, sitting on the end of my barracks bag.
Oh, gee. So it was like a box car they had you in?
No, they were coaches, but they were
Just
packed full.
Wow.
And there was no way to get a meal, no nothing.
Really? How long did it take you to get from San Francisco back? Did it take you back to Chinook?
We were on about 2 days till we got to Ogden, Utah, and then from Ogden, Utah, it took us about a day and a half to get from Ogden, Utah to Chinook, Montana.
What was it like when you got off the train back at Chinook?
It was wonderful. My family was there. My mother was there. She had tears in her eyes. And I had tears in my eyes too.
Yeah.
It was so happy.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. All right, Grandpa, what was it like when you were coming back into San Francisco?
When we sailed into San Francisco, it was the most beautiful sight I'd ever saw. The sun was coming up over San Francisco. And San Francisco Bay, sunlight was shining, and we sailed into the Golden Gate Bridge, and the banners on the side of the harbor says, "Welcome home, boys."
Oh.
And when we docked at Treasure Island, the band was playing. And as we walked off the gangplank, and that was the most welcome sight I'd ever seen in my life.
Wow.
It was beautiful.
Who was the captain you said brought you back?
Pardon?
Who was the captain that brought you back?
I don't know who the captain was of that ship, but whoever he was, he
He's a pretty
had
good
beautiful dining.
guy.
It was wonderful.
Has your view on war changed?
Huh?
Did your view on war change once you had kids and grandkids and great-grandkids? Do you look differently at the war?
Yeah, I think it was a war. It was won great by the United States of America, and we did what we had to do. And I loved all my buddies, my friends I encountered through all the war. And they were right. And I would love to see them all again.
Yeah. What was your proudest moment, Grandpa?
My saddest moment probably was I had my good friend Red Grigsby killed alongside of me.
Yeah.
And I lost him. He was like losing a brother. And guys became brothers. You didn't know them before you ever got in the service, but they became brothers when you got to fighting with each other.
Yeah.
Because one helped the other one.
What was your proudest moment?
My proudest moment came to Snook, Montana, and my dad drove an old Model A Ford to town, and he brought my mother out, and she walked up to me, and she had big tears in her eyes, and I did too.
Yeah.
He probably too when he saw the flag go up on Iwo Jima.
Oh,
They don't have that flag.
yeah. Did you see the flag go up on Iwo Jima?
Yep,
Were you there?
I saw the flag go up on Iwo Jima.
That was.
I told we were fighting our way toward the north end of the island, and I told my friends, standing around, yes, there goes Old Glory.
Yeah.
That was nice.
That's pretty cool. Um, all right. Well, thank you, Earl Bahr. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, we're sitting at my parents' house in Great Falls, Montana. And
Well, thank you, Sarah. You're my granddaughter, and I love you very much. I'm glad I lived through the war, and I produced 7 children, and you're one of my grandchildren.
Pull that guy on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Grandpa, when did you find the little boy? What was the story?
We were on outpost duty, and one night, and the Japanese wanted to surrender, so we had this little boy by the hand, and we shot at anything that moved after dark, so the guys opened fire, and the little boy screamed, and he said, Mishamaro, native of Guam, and he says, Japanese got me by hand, and so we says, little boy, come on in, and Japanese, you lay down, right where you're at. And so the little boy came in, and one of the bullets grazed a rib, and he was bleeding, and so I took him to the doctor, and the doctor happened to be right there, and the doctor felt his rib, and he says he needs some plasma. So he told me to hold a plasma bottle up in the air, and he felt the little boy's arm till he found the vein, and it was pitch dark, and he put the needle into that vein, and he said, okay, it's going in, and you hold that bottle up there. And then the little boy was in our camp in the morning, and I had what they call a D bar, and it was a chocolate bar, and I gave it to the little boy, and he ate it like he'd never had enough to eat before.
Oh, geez.
And he was a nice little boy.
What had the Japanese done to him?
They had tortured him. They'd cut off an ear.
They thought he knew something, or they just...
Oh, they were just mean. They got tired of looking at the native people, and sometimes they would cut their heads off. And
Wow.
one day when we were on patrol, we found 25 Chamorro people, which were natives of Guam. When they took them, and they had beheaded, they tied their hands behind their backs, and they beheaded them.
Oh, gee. So the Guam people were probably pretty happy to see you guys coming.
Yeah, one day we were marching up a trail, taking the island, and Chamorro people were coming down the trail, and in those days they had just carts and water buffaloes probably hitched to the carts, pulling the carts, and they were singing, Uncle Sammy, you come back to Guamie. They were glad to see us.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
It was a wonderful sight.
Yeah. Tell me about the man that you saved on the battlefield.
One night, we were digging in for the night on Iwo Jima, and they pulled us back about 20 yards and told us to dig in for the night. And after we got dug in, we could hear a voice on our left flank, and the guys had pulled back, and they thought the man was dead, so they left him. And all of a sudden we could hear this voice hollering, "Help!" And lieutenant says, "Somebody's out there." And I said, "Yeah." And about that time, heard it again, "Help!" And it was such a mournful sound. He says, "Well, it belongs to the," say we were the 3rd Battalion, it belonged to the 2nd Battalion. He says, "What are we going to do about that? It belongs to the 2nd Battalion." I said, "I don't know. Do you know where that guy's laying at?" He said, "Yeah, I know approximately," the lieutenant told me. And I says, "Well, that's sure a mournful sound." And I says, "Are we going to do anything to save him?" And he says, "Well, what do you want to do?" I says, "You know, if I don't do something, I'll hear that mournful sound for the rest of my life of that guy hollering help."
Yeah.
He says, "All right, we'll cover you." So they covered me with fire, and I crept up a ravine, and I crawled across this ravine, and to where I could just see this guy, and I hollered at him. I says, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay, but I can't move my legs." I says, "Well, I'll crawl over to you then." So I crawled over to him, and I says, "You can't move your legs?" He says, "No, I got a bullet wound back there, and I can't move my legs." I says, "Well, put your right arm over my shoulder, and we'll have to crawl on our bellies." So we did, and they crawled on our bellies back to my platoon, and then we called up some medics, and they came up with stretcher bearers, and they took him out of there. And I didn't know the guy's name, never saw him. But one day when I was back on Guam after all the fighting was over, I was standing out by my tent, and the guy came up to me, and he says, "You're the guy that called out there and got me?" I said, "I don't know. Are you the guy I saved?" He said, "Yes, I am." And I never asked him his name or nothing. He just thanked me for saving his life.
Wow. So what had happened? The
bullet had grazed his spinal column,
Oh.
and it numbed his spinal column, where he couldn't move his legs. But he healed up as soon as I got him back to the hospital.
Wow.
And he was all right again.
That's a pretty lucky guy, too.
Yeah.
Are there any other names of people that stick out in your memory that you fought with or under, or drill instructors?
Well, I had a captain, and he was really a nice guy. He was a druggist before he got in the Marine Corps, and he was the captain of our outfit. And the Japanese was shooting artillery shots. They had shortened fuses on them, So they'd go so far out, instead of landing and blowing up, they would blow up in midair,
Oh.
and they were loaded with pellets, and they were killing lots of our men, and right in the foxholes. They'd be down in their foxholes, but they'd get these pellets from up in here and come down and get them. So he says, I have to go forward. And he said, I don't care if anybody goes with me, but I have to go forward and look, see where that artillery piece is so we can knock it out. So our first sergeant, he says, you ain't going alone. So he went with him, and they killed them both. They never came back.
Oh, jeez.
I always thought a lot of that guy. His name was Black Jack Stevenson. I don't know where he got the blackjack from, but I think he liked to play blackjack with the troops when things were clapped, you know,
Yeah.
for entertainment.
Anyone else that sticks out in your memory?
Well, I guess that was about it.
That's most of them. What else did you do for recreation? Play cards?
Yeah, when we weren't doing nothing, we played penny poker at night. No big stakes. $20 bill was probably tops.
Yeah. Did you have any way to communicate with anyone back home?
No, everything was censored.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never forget my friend Red Grigsby that got killed beside me on the lawn. He thought, he says, oh, I'll get through that code. And he says, I'll almost they'll let my parents know where I'm at. So we were on Guadalcanal. So he wrote, and we had what they call V-mail. You'd write a letter, and then they would take a picture of it, and then they would reduce it down, and they'd mail it, and then when the folks back home got it, they would blow it back up again.
Oh, wow.
And it's called V-mail. So, you know, his mom wrote back, she says, Jack, we got a letter from you the other day, but it says, Dear Mom and Dad, and then everything was cut out till where it says, love your son Jack. And what he'd written in there, he says, is my uncle Guado, is he still working down on the canal?
Oh.
They cut it all.
They intercepted that one pretty quick, I suppose. Oh, jeez.
That was kind of funny.
What was your food like?
Pardon?
What was the food like?
Oh, our food wasn't the best. And then when we got over and down on Guadalcanal and down there, it was close to Australia. And we always had to go down the trail line, and they always had mutton stew, mutton chops. Everybody was tired of it. I think it was old ewes, you know, Uncle Sam had bought lots of sheep, and they were all old ewes. They weren't fried mutton, you know, they were old ones ready to go over the hill.
Pretty chewy and not too tasty.
Because I can remember going to South St. Paul before I got in the service. And I went down there, and every morning we'd go down to the stockyards, and we'd consign our cows to the commission company. And we'd go down there to see what kind of a bid they had on them for that day and see whether we wanted to sell them or not. And every day we went down there was a great big long ramp going way up, about 2 stories high. And there was a ramp. On that ramp was one sheep after another going up all those ewes. And when they started feeding us mutton over in the South Seas, all I could see was the old ewes going up that ladder.
And he went, now I know where they went.
I know where they went. We're eating it over here.
Oh, that's pretty good. All right, thank you, Grandpa.
You're welcome, Sarah.